Hey everyone, my name is Neil.
And my name's David.
We are not film critics. In this episode, David and I will be covering legendary filmmaker, director, and honestly, an amazing person overall, Martin Scorsese.
Scorsese's?
Now, um,
Scorsese.
is this yeah? Is that what I said?
It sounded like
Scorsese's?
you said Scorsese's. Like there's multiple of him. Last time I checked, there's only one.
Scorsese. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, Scorsese. Scorsese.
it's a tongue
Anyways,
twister. You'll get it. You'll get it.
it is a tongue twister. Uh, it's funny that you mentioned that now because before I figured out the pronunciation of his last name. I used to say Scorsese.
Scorsese. No
Yeah.
Az, just Scorsese.
No, just Scorsese. Because you see, the last E, I thought it was silent, right? You can't blame me.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
you can't blame
Honestly,
me.
I get that.
That's usually the yeah. See,
I would
but it's his
always.
Italian background,
Mm-hmm.
I think, right?
Yeah, he
That
is. He
comes to
is
play.
Italian. I always mix up the
Yeah,
the spelling. Like, is it an S or is it a C? Like the after the score, is it a Sese like Cese, or is it Sese? And I
it
always
is.
mix it
It's
up.
it's tough
Mm-hmm.
verbally and I guess writing it down.
Yeah.
It's Martin Scorsese.
Anyways,
Okay, yeah. I mean, how? So, I mean, it's not like he's unknown filmmaker. Like, I don't know. I think it's fair to say that everybody has at least seen at least one movie of his, right?
I mean, it depends how old you are, I guess. Because if you're older, then I think definitely seen at least one. But if you're like our generation, I actually didn't think I'd seen a Martin Scorsese movie until I started watching them for this video
Really?
or so
Wow.
this podcast episode.
That's that's wow. That's interesting. Because I feel like if you're, I guess, an avid movie watcher or a film lover, you'd have to have at least seen one in your sometime in your life. But it's all right if you
Yeah, you
haven't
can't
though.
exactly avoid him.
I know, I know he's that good, and he's been in the business for a very long time. Now, in this episode, the movies that we'll be covering is obviously Goodfellas, The Irishman, Taxi Driver, Wolf of Wall Street, Shutter Island, The Departed, Silence, Raging Bull, and Mean Streets, Gangs of New York's, and The King of Comedy. Now, that seems like a
A long
hectic amount
list.
of movies, but
Yeah.
don't worry, we'll get through it. We'll get through it.
Okay.
Um,
I think we should just dive into it because this is
yeah,
a
dive
long
into it.
list.
You wanna do it chronologically?
Um, sure, I guess. So, what's the first movie that he released? I think it's Mean Streets, right?
The one that we're covering, yeah, yes, yeah. I think is the one that he's really, yeah, Mean Streets, yeah.
Okay. So, Neil, what did you think of Mean Streets?
Okay, Mean Streets. Mean Streets is sort of like his coming of age movie, right? He's it's the genre is what crime and mob groups and gang and I don't want to say syndicates, but just crime overall, and that's what that's what Martin Scorsese is known for, right? His I guess his the movie that he's made all throughout his career from starting from Mean Streets have not all obviously have been about gangs and stuff, but most of them have, right? So I think it was a pretty good start for his career. It being his first movie about this genre, and I think was it his first directed movie or
I think it was. I mean, I can check out his Wikipedia page, but I think this is his first movie where he directed it. Or at least, maybe if not his first film, maybe his first major film.
yeah, probably his first major film, maybe like I don't know, his like first feature film or something. But aside from that, I thought the movie was all right. Honestly, um, I like the beginning of the movie. Up until I thought it started out super strong. The pace was nice. I like the class. Well, now class at the time it was new for him, but now the classic narration that the main character had, Charlie. I think, was it Charlie? Yeah, Harvey Keitel. I like how they had, you know, him narrating his stories, and then going on from there. Um, but towards, as it progressed, I thought the movie just, uh in quality it definitely died down. Yeah, definitely dipped. Especially, not just the like the technical aspects of filmmaking, but more importantly the plot of the story. It just got super uninteresting because at first it was about Charlie and the gang, and then up until like what, an hour and a half in, it the story was isolated into just Charlie, and out of nowhere you get all these new characters with super sudden introductions right in the middle of the movie, and the pace slows down, and then just overall it wasn't as interesting as it was. I think it was able to redeem itself towards the end, but not fully. You know what I mean? So it kind of just dipped down, made a little bit of you know incline, trying to get better, but it just stayed there, right? I think if the movie would be cut down to maybe an hour and a half, because there's some scenes and some stuff that could have been taken off, right? Irrelevant. It was just, I felt like it was just dragging the film. And if there were some, those particular scenes were cut down, I think it would be a whole lot better
I think I
than what it
definitely
turned
agree
out
with
to be.
that. But I think because your criticism of the film was very like, oh, it had some good elements, had some bad elements, it's kind of in between. But my criticism is like this movie is just like bad. I don't. I'm sorry. Like I get it. Maybe it's like a historical film or it was his first film and blah 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 blah. But I just there's nothing in this movie that caught me. There's nothing in this movie that hooked me. There's no intrigue. There's no nothing. I wasn't caught. What's the word? Engaged in the movie. I wasn't engaged with the premise. It was boring for an hour and a half. Nothing was happening. More happens in the last 10 minutes of the movie than the previous hour and a half. And I think that's just a failing on the filmmaker because there's nothing occupying that time. It's just people messing about, like messing around. And the thing is, it never culminates in anything. You could have the opening of the movie and then cut to the end, and we would miss nothing because like it's just not plot. It's not plot. It's almost like the director is counting the seconds on his watch till the time runs out. Another joke, not another joke, another thing in this movie is that some of the like performances, like they're okay, like they're not like blowing me away or anything, they're fine, but I feel like Robert De Niro, I think he won an award for this movie or something, which yeah, it blows my mind because there's a kind of a stereotype that, oh yeah, white guys win awards for just basically yelling at the camera, right? And in this movie, he just yells and acts like an idiot, and then he won an award for it. Like I don't understand. Like he's not an interesting character. He's not a dynamic character. He's not exceptionally well written. He's not well acted. There's nothing compelling. What were they looking at? I don't understand.
Yeah, that is a questionable choice. I'm guessing he won some sort of individual award, like supporting actor, right?
Yeah, it was a supporting actor thing, but it blows my mind honestly. The filmmaking in the film, the filmmaking in the film. That's a try to say that 5 times fast. The filmmaking in the film was noticeably bad. Like the editing was noticeably poor. Like in often in shots, what would happen is that they would like do something and they would cut to an alternative angle, and then it'd be like the footage would be rewinded like a second. So he basically do it twice on screen, and sometimes that's a style, But it wasn't. He didn't. They didn't do it all the time. They didn't do it all the time, and oftentimes it would like there'd be multiple like continuity errors between shots. It didn't look professional. Obviously, I know this is his first movie. Maybe I'm holding his standards too high because it's the '70s. But I've seen better movies from the '70s, and like it's just not very good. And oftentimes, not only is the editing bad, but like, and the filmmaking, but the cinematography is often incredibly uninspired. Like there's a scene where they're fighting, right? And the camera like it purposefully like it does a long take and like it purposely lingers on all like the violence, right? And maybe if this was a good movie, you could say, "Wow, he's lingering, he's making you forcing you to see it, blah 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 blah." But no, in this movie, it's just a long take because I guess they didn't want to edit it because there's nothing like okay, the beauty of a long cake is that lots of things are happening and like there's lots of like good choreography and it's like all happening at once. It's supposed to like almost like invade the senses, right? You're supposed to be like completely taken in and like kept in a smooth experience. But in this, the shots are blurry. Like there's nothing like it's not doesn't actually there's no like rhythm to the shots. It's just kind of throwing the shots out there. Well, I guess we have to shoot this now, and I might as well shoot in a long take. Why? Who knows? It was disappointing. I thought because I didn't watch this movie first, but I watched it like around midway through my like selection of Scorsese's movies, and I thought maybe he'll continue like a trend of like decent films, but nope, it's just bad.
You can definitely tell it's not one of his best works. You know, for someone as huge and as known as Martin Scorsese, to think that a movie like this and to have those types of um I guess mistakes would be a part of his history and his I guess his wallet of films that he's produced. But that's all right, right? Because that's it. That it is his first film. It is his first feature film, and obviously, you're not not everybody's gonna be a Quentin Tarantino where they're gonna produce the first film and make it amazing. And even Quentin, his first film probably wasn't his best work. So from there on, Mean Streets, everything was a learning process. I think definitely he did get better from the start of his career. I just wanna yeah, I just wanna touch back on De Niro winning an award for what, supporting actor, you said? Not to not to say, that De Niro is a bad actor, because obviously he isn't. But I don't think that, especially in Mean Streets, that it's not one of his best works. I think some, most a lot of the acting, especially from him, was forced. Like you can tell it was acting. A job for an actor is to deceive the audience and tell them that they're not acting, that they're being genuine. But in in terms of De Niro and in Mean Streets, you can definitely tell that he's acting. He's forcing it. Like there's some part he's forcing it, especially when he acts like he acts. I don't. He well he acts crazy, right? When he does act crazy, you can tell he's forcing that. Obviously, throughout the years, that's something he's been able to refine. But in Mean Streets, I don't think that'd be deserving of any sort of award.
Honestly, the I think the best thing to do about with this movie is to just stop talking about it so we can move on to other stuff because honestly, like there's not much to say besides like it's a first movie. It's not anything that's gonna blow you away.
Yeah, we'll give it the benefit of the doubt. Uh, so for the second movie now, let's move on to Raging Bull.
Actually, it's a Taxi Driver. Taxi
Taxi
Driver
Driver
came
came
out
out
before
before.
Raging Bull. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. See, yeah. I thought like, oh yeah,
Oh my
Raging Bull. It's
gosh.
in black and white. It must be so old. Nope.
No. Okay, I guess that's just the cinematography, but yeah.
Yeah,
So let's go and move on to Taxi Driver. When did Taxi Driver come out? 76.
1976. Yeah.
Wow. For the it came out in 1976, but it doesn't seem like, the setting of the movie. It didn't seem like it was made in the 70s.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Kind of, it doesn't. Not that it's timeless, but it definitely feels
Yeah, no,
maybe like it was
definitely
made in
not.
like the 80s or the early
80s
90s.
or early, yeah, yeah,
But
for
not the
sure.
set like late 70s is kind of like, oh, okay, yeah. See that? You have a lot of people make that mistake because the filmmaking in Taxi Driver, it feels like going from Mean Streets to Taxi Driver is a huge leap. You
Oh
know,
yeah, for sure, 100%.
and so I think
In what,
like
2 years?
yeah, in 2 years. like it's not only like a pure filmmaking like skill and like just like being able to wield like a camera and everything, but also like the quality of the story and the quality of the characters. It's a huge leap, and honestly, I think okay. Taxi Driver, I think it's a good movie, but I don't because all of the hype around Taxi Driver is like, oh yeah, it's so amazing. That's like it's amazing. Like it's very good. But when I watched it personally, I'm like, sure, this is good. This is like a good film, but I don't know if it's amazing. I guess I don't know. Maybe I'm kind of burnt out of stories about like white guy like disenfranchised white guys. Maybe I'm burnt out by that because a lot of this time it's like, oh no, like decides to go out on his own and he's like a bad guy, but it's I don't know. It's a bit weird, but I think this film what it was trying to do, what it's trying to like capture, I think he captures it better in other films.
Okay. I don't think I'm thinking the same thing as you. What do you think he's trying to capture in this film?
I think he's trying to like talk about violence in the movie and how like violence is like not only that's like not like it's not good like duh that's obviously a message, but like the brutality of violence and how oftentimes violence isn't just like murder. Violence is like being like oppressed and being like pushed down and being like systematically kind of like disenfranchised, I guess.
I personally, I think the jump from Mean Streets to Taxi Driver is a lot. Taxi Driver is honestly probably one of the better films that he's created. For Martin Scorsese. I think the writer isn't Scorsese's though. I think Paul Schrader. Or sorry if I butcher his name. Paul Schrader wrote the film, and Scorsese was just tasked to direct it. But directing wise, like it got a lot better. You know, you mentioned earlier the action in Mean Streets being
Disorganized and unfocused,
what
yeah.
what is disorganized, exactly, disorganized. But I think the action here in Taxi Driver is is amazing. Not that it had a lot of action, honestly. A lot of it was just um a personal a personal a personal journey for Travis, which was the Robert De Niro's character. But when it did had action, I thought the directing, how the shot was created, how the editing was, I thought that was all on point as to how not not that how I'd want it, but it fits the story. Yeah, you get what I mean.
It fits
It
the
fits the
film, yeah.
film and the story, the plot, and everything. Um, when I watched this movie, I heard a lot. There was a lot of hype about Taxi Driver, right? And when I watched it, not that it's not. I wasn't. It's not. I was blown away by the film, but I also wasn't disappointed. Like I get the hype. I get why people like it, but I'm not gonna be hyping it up. I'm not gonna be saying it's the best film out there. I'm not gonna be saying it's um top five film of all time. I get why it's good. Honestly, like I enjoyed watching the movie, but there are elements of the films that were just that could have been better, right? If they were improved. Like one thing I thought the pace, it felt forever. The movie was what 2 hours. It felt like 3 hours long, and the pace of the film could honestly it could have been improved on, and it's not just with Taxi Driver. I feel like Martin Scorsese, his films they feel a little long, and they are long. A lot of them are like above 2 hours, but when you're actually watching it, because there's a difference between the runtime of a film and the pace of a film, right? And essentially, what the pace dictates on how engaged you are with the film, right? There were times when in Taxi Driver, you could just it just felt like a long time watching it. I think if that component of the movie could have been improved on, I I mean, I could say it would have been one of my top five favorite films of all time. Aside from that, I mean, well, my favorite, right? Subjectivity, you know. Um, Aside from that, I thought it was overall good. De Niro did a much better job with his acting, a whole lot better job.
Oh yeah,
This was the
definitely.
character that he tried to play in Mean Streets, but in Taxi Driver, he played. You know, like if you just watch closely, the character that De Niro played in Mean Street and the character that um De Niro plays in Taxi Driver, they're not the same characters, but they're more or less the same. You know, they're not afar from one another. They're similar, and the way he played it here was so much better. His acting was so much better. His performance was a whole lot better. Um, I could honestly say it's one of his best works for De Niro.
I agree with you with a lot of what you said about Taxi Driver. I think my only thing would be like for you, like I understand your pacing issues, but for me it was even worse because it felt like the film was divided in two halves almost. There was like the first half,
Hmm.
and then there was the second half. Like, cause not literally in half. Like the film doesn't like break off like at the like hour and 15 minute mark,
Like,
but like
yeah, it's not gonna be like the full. It's not like Full Metal
no.
Jacket. That's is what you're saying. Yeah,
What I mean is like the main plot, the main story, the driver of the story. Because like
yeah,
in the first half, it's just Travis going out and doing adventures, right? And then the second half, it becomes specific to that girl and how he wants to like help her and free her, right? And I feel like, well, that was a good story. I think maybe it should have been that for the whole thing. Maybe that should have been introduced earlier so the plot can have a bit more drive earlier on. So it doesn't just feel like he's kind of walking around like, is it New York? I think it's New York. I don't know exactly. New
it is
York.
New
Yeah, it
York.
doesn't
Yeah,
feel like he's just wandering around New York in a taxi. Because that's how it felt for a lot of the movie. But
yeah.
besides that, I think I agree with pretty much everything you said.
Can we talk about Scorsese's Scorsese's Scorsese
Scorsese.
Scorsese's performance? Did you the he was the the guy
Which guy?
that um the guy that De Niro had to drive, right? And then he made him sit in the taxi, and then they were watching him and his wife was in that apartment. Did you see that?
No, I
You
didn't
I
actually.
mean, you watched the
I didn't
movie.
actually. I didn't see that.
You don't remember?
I think I remember that part, but I
He
just
was
don't
the
remember Scorsese being there. I mean, then again, I wasn't
that
paying
was
much
him.
attention to his face, but you know.
Yeah, that was him. I thought he did a pretty good job. Honestly, that's probably one of the best. Um, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a cameo because he had like 10 minutes of screen time, but one of the better performances I've seen from a director that from a movie that a director is directing.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
personally, I don't think anyone can top Taika Waititi and Jojo Rabbit, but maybe that's just me.
Oh, yes. Oh my gosh. So
How could you
I'm sorry.
forget?
Forgive me. Taika Waititi's Jojo Rabbit was amazing. I mean, and he had more screen time,
Yeah.
and his character in Jojo Rabbit was more significant than
Yeah.
um Scorsese's. Yes, I mean it's not the best, but it's one of the better ones
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Do you think we can move on to the next film? Do you have anything left to say about Taxi Driver?
No, I think that's all for Taxi Driver. I
Okay.
think okay, I want to get this right this time. It's Raging Bull, right?
Raging Bull.
Raging Bull. All right. Okay. Can I start?
Yeah, go nuts.
All right. Now, coming into this movie, I know this movie was about I mean he's the legendary boxer Jake LaMotta. If you don't know, this movie is actually a real life story of an actual boxer that lived and that fought and with the same name, Jake LaMotta. Now, um, the issue I had with this film was it didn't do justice to his name and his story. I thought the way that it was just executed, it was a lot of turning points. You know, there's one point where the pacing would be super slow, and like a 5 minute scene would feel like a million hours. And then there was times when they would show those slideshows of his life and pictures of what was happening, and those felt super fast. Not that super fast that it was bad. That like fast in a way where it was enjoyable to watch, right? And then the problem is, those two scenes would be back to back. You'd have you'd have that super long scene, and afterwards you'd have the cut, or not, well, not cut, but like next scene after that would be that and fun, enjoyable um a scene. Excuse me. Um, I think that was my main issue with the film, and having those two fight off each other, it just made it uninteresting. You know, his story is interesting, like for sure. Like this, Jake LaMotta, this guy, at one point at the top of the world, he had mental health issues, caused his downfall. Like that in of itself, in a plot of a film, is already intriguing. People will watch that, but just how it was executed, it was just disappointing. It was I was just disappointed overall. But I mean, that was like my main issue that I had with the film. That was the biggest issue I had with the film, and it had a lot of hype too. A lot of Martin's movies has a lot of hype, and this one already has a lot of hype, saying it's a masterpiece. It's amazing. It's incredible. I didn't think it was nothing special. I thought, if anything, it was worse than Mean Streets. Honestly,
Really?
yeah,
Wow. That's a hot take you got yourself there.
that that is a hot take. I'm gonna get flamed, man.
Okay. In my opinion, I actually really like this movie. Honestly, like, I think I do understand because personally, I don't know the story of Jake LaMotta or anything. Like, I obviously I watched the movie, so I know a bit, but I don't know that much. And maybe not De Niro. Maybe Scorsese tried to adapt too much. Like tried to adapt basically his whole life, right? And maybe you should have focused a bit more because movies are always better when they have a strong focus, right? Maybe this one felt a bit too all over the place for you, but for me, I think I get that a bit. But I think also it's an epic in a way. It's a tale of like a man from kind of the prime of his life to like basically not his death literally, but his his downfall, right? And I feel like that is I think it's a strong premise for a movie. And I think maybe sometimes I think because a lot of movies are like it depends on the perspective you tell the story from, because I think there's two perspectives to tell this story from. There's this perspective of someone that admires Jake LaMotta, who thinks, hey, like he was like a bad guy, but he had this like wanted more, and he was like had a drive and like that. Or there's a thing where he was an asshole that burned everything around him, right? And I think this movie like very intentionally takes the second road, where he's a bad person and he burns everything around him, and it's that destructiveness that kind of destroys eventually his relationships and like with his wife, family, everyone around him. And I think that is what this movie is about. I think that's a strong movie. I think if from any other perspective this movie doesn't make any sense other than that one. And because of this, I think like a lot of it was done really well. Boxing scenes were like well executed. A lot of the dialogue, well, maybe not being amazing, was at least like good. De Niro played a really good Jake LaMotta, in my opinion. Um, Maybe some of the scenes dragged on too long, but I think it was okay. I think like the scene pacing was okay. I think I really like this film. I think maybe just maybe I think maybe it was a bit too long, but I think it was a step up in quality from what is it, Taxi Driver, in my opinion. I think this movie is better than Taxi Driver because Taxi Driver is kind of a bit more simplistic in its like viewpoint. Well, this is like it captures more of a person than Taxi Driver does. But yeah, that's another hot take I got myself there. But yeah, solid movie. Liked it a lot.
I think that's um, before we move on to the next one, I think that's an issue with Martin Scorsese. I think he makes his movies way too long. I understand if you want to make exactly, yeah, like I understand if you want to make your movie 2 hours long, for character development, plot development, and everything, but sometimes, and I'm not saying sometimes, I'm saying like most of the times in his films, they just drag. There's way too much in the scene. There's some stuff you can take out. It's insignificant in the film, right? You can take it out, and the plot will be the same. Nothing is added, and that's I think that's like an issue that he has with throughout the years and throughout his history, and the films that he's created.
Okay. Next film. Can you guess what it is?
It's okay. I'm gonna get this right now. The king of comedy.
Ding ding ding.
All
Correct.
right. Okay. Can you want to start, or do you want me to start?
I'll start. I'll start. Okay. So I went to this movie with basically zero expectations because I didn't even actually hear of this until while I was bringing up my list of Martin Scorsese movies. You suggested to me, Neil, and like, yeah, I was thinking, okay, because remember when we had the initial like meeting, I was like, oh no, like we're not gonna do this movie, and then you suggest, I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll watch it, and then I actually ended up liking it. Maybe not a lot. Maybe I didn't like it a lot, but I liked it definitely more than I thought. I think maybe I think there was a few missteps in the overall film because the main character, while he is like his whole thing is that he's supposed to be like look like a kind, nice guy, but he's like a liar, right? Like he's like and he has like severe mental issues. But the thing is, I feel like maybe they could have gone a bit harder on it because a lot of the movie, maybe it's supposed to be tension filled, but I didn't feel anything. It kind of just felt like a guy trying to like con his way into like a business, right? And I feel like it wasn't working, and so he just like wasn't able to like get in, and then by the end he like bribed like he like was it he kidnapped someone to do it, and then like he I guess he did it. He accomplished what he wanted to. Mm-hmm. But maybe the maybe hold on. Let me see how I can put this. Maybe the main character should have been more threatening because I never felt at any time that he was going to actually kill the guy he kidnapped or that he was like bubbling beneath the surface with rage or anything. He was always just a nice guy, just ready to do what. I never felt that. There's never a scene in the movie which I went, "Oh wow," like or when I was threatened by him or when I felt intimidated. I feel like maybe this movie works better if maybe Robert De Niro in this movie was a bit more threatening, or maybe not even threatening. It doesn't have to be exteriorly threatening, but maybe just a bit off. Because maybe Martin Scorsese tried to create that feeling where he's just a bit off, like you don't really know what he's gonna do. But I don't. In my opinion, he didn't succeed.
Wow. Okay. I think it's fitting that Robert De Niro's character Rupert isn't is it. I think the way he was in the movie was perfect. I don't think he needed to be more threatening, as you said, just because of his character. His character is a comedian, right? He's funny. He's straightforward. Straightforward type of funny. And at times, being that type of funny, it makes you look like a, excuse my French, but it makes you look like a dick, right? And I think him being like that, it made the movie so much more compelling. You have this character that's basically making a joke out of everybody, and everyone in the film. He made a joke of the um the what's the guy's name, Jerry and his team, and in the end, he got what he wanted, and he was happy with what he wanted, so much so that he wasn't afraid to face the consequences, right? At the end of the day, it wasn't him committing that crime, kidnapping Jerry and doing all that, and like to get away, to try to hide and get, flee the country, flee the city or something to get away from the officials. He did that just so that one day he'll be proud to say that he did something, right? Because all his life he's been a failed comedian. Nothing less than a failed comedian, right? Nothing more than a failed comedian. And once that he pulled that big stunt, he realized that was probably his only chance of having some sort of success. And so when he did had that success, he understood what the consequences was, and he wasn't afraid of the consequences. He wasn't afraid of the consequences. He tackled it face on, and that made the story so great. I think that's what I love about this movie. You know how unafraid the main character is, and how daring he is as a character. I don't think I think if you've made him a little more I guess threatening, you'd look at him differently. You'd yeah, you wouldn't be proud of him, you know, getting what he have. If you made him more threatening, you want that guy to be picked up off the streets and sent to jail, right? But you know, the way he is as a character, so charming and so nice, you'd want him to succeed as you know, as an audience. And so that I think that's why I'd say I disagree with you saying that, you know, he should have been a little more threatening just so you can I guess have fear, or there's more tension and unpredictability with the character. Uh Before we move on, I just want to point out I mentioned earlier Taxi Driver was was one of Robert De Niro's greatest performance, but I think the king of comedy is Robert De Niro's best performance.
Best
Like,
ever.
yes,
You've
pound
seen
for
every
pound,
Robert De Niro
number one.
movie.
Maybe not, but from the ones I've seen, pound for pound, number one.
Wow.
Like his performance here is just amazing.
That's very high praise.
It is. I mean, it's the movie's great. You know, the movie's honestly amazing, and you know the part of it obviously would the story and the direction, but it's also De Niro's acting. I thought it was pound for pound number one, like untouchable. Like you can't if you can't reach out and try to take it out of the seat. It's like for me at least number one, the king of comedy, Robert De Niro's greatest performance.
Oh, okay. Okay. I think.
Is that
Okay. Okay.
that's a
I'll
hot
allow it.
take?
I'll allow it.
I, there's a lot of hot takes in this episode,
Yeah.
eh?
Yeah. Hot off the presses. Okay. Next film is. Can you guess, Neil?
Wait. Let me.
Hey, no looking at Wikipedia. No, no, no,
Is
no,
it
no.
Goodfellas?
You looked at
Is it
Wikipedia, didn't you?
Goodfellas? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Close Wikipedia. No
Goodfellas.
Wikipedia for the next one, okay?
Okay, fine. No computer
Okay.
for that. Literally, absolute guessing.
Okay. So, what
Go.
did you think of Goodfellas, Neil?
Goodfellas. Now, I heard of this film back in 2018, which is what 30 years from when it was uh, released. I heard it from a friend actually. I asked him what was one of his favorite movies was, and he mentioned Goodfellas. I'm like, what is Goodfellas? He's like, oh, you don't know Good. He was surprised that I didn't know what Goodfellas was, because he's like he said it's the greatest film that he's ever seen. He said it's the greatest mobster or gang film that he's ever seen, and up until this point, you know, Scorsese, this is what he's known for. Now this is what he's known for. But up until this point, you know, his movies weren't mostly, you know, gangsters and mobs and that sort of genre. And so I went to go watch this film. I thought maybe he's right, but he wasn't. Obviously, I don't think. I think Goodfellas is a good enough film to be remembered for a very long time, but I don't think it's one of the best. You know, it's not timeless, so to speak. I think the narration, which is now the um like stamped Martin Scorsese type of film, the narration, I think any sort of narration, honestly, from Martin Scorsese is cool, because you know there's a character narrating what's happening, and then you know you don't have to worry about, you know, the characters don't have to worry about having a dialogue, you know, other, because most of it would just be like B rolls and, you know, characters moving, and I found that really cool, and he did a great job on that. Um, Is it what I say is the best movie of all time? I don't think it is, honestly. I think it's good enough to be, like I said, it's good enough to be remembered for a very long time, but it's not like number one. It's not like maybe top five, but or maybe not even top five, but for me at least, it's somewhere in the mix of, I guess, top 15, top 10.
Okay. I mean, I kind of have the maybe not the opposite opinion, but a definitely more passionate version of your opinion, which is that I Goodfellas, I'm coming around and say this right now, is my favorite Martin Scorsese movie that I've seen. I think that this movie is like maybe it's not like a masterpiece, but it is definitely very good. Like I think top tier, right? And I think hmm I think what is it? What makes this movie so good is not only like because it's the slow build up, right? Of over the course of the film, like it starts out with just the like he's just a kid, right? And then you see how he slowly gets sucked into this world of gangs and money and like drugs and everything, and how he slowly turns into from what is like a normal kid into like this mob boss essentially, right? He's not probably a boss, he's more like a grunt, but like he's this part of the mafia, the Italian mafia. Is that reductive? I guess I don't know. Whatever. Anyways, basically becomes a part of this gang, and then the gang kind of like warps everything around him. So it kind of poisons all his relationships. He's stressed out to the max, and like a lot of the moments of this movie I really like. Like when what is it? Joe Pesci shoots the guy like when he's like in the foot for no reason. They're all like, "What the hell are you doing?" When like he can like, they snap like that. Like the attitude goes from like oh jokey to like serious in like an instant, right? Or when what is it when the blood like the guy is bleeding, he comes to their pizza parlor and like he's like what like and then the guy admonishes him, what are you doing, why are you like bringing like aprons to stop the blood, you gotta do paper towels because you're wasting aprons. I'm like it's such maybe a detached way to view like somebody dying, and that's what that mob is created to. I think that's a really interesting perspective. And not only that, but I think the last 30 minutes of this movie are, I think, almost perfect. Because it starts off like the whole sequence where he has to go here and do this and like do this and like go here and like he has to juggle all of these things and all of course everything collapses and nothing works out right and he ends up getting none of what he wants and it's such like a high intensity sequence. It reminds me of, have you ever seen uh what's that Adam Sandler movie? The good one, not the bad, not all the bad ones. The good one.
Well,
It's the
I
one with the
mean, my
uncut
my
gems. Have
good
you ever
one
seen
is Grown
Uncut
Ups
Gems?
too. So, huh?
Have you ever seen
Uncut
Uncut
Gems?
Gems? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You seen it? You know the feeling of anxiety through the last part of that movie? That is what like that is what that last sequence is for me. It's the same kind of anxiety, same kind of fear that maybe everything won't work out, but there's just the hope that it will, and that keeps you on the edge of your seat, and it's really effective. And like not to mention the like great filmmaking on display. Lots of long takes, lots of like actually good long takes, lots of good dialogue. The characters are fully formed. It's all good all around. I think I think it's top Martin Scorsese movie. I think maybe top 30 movies I've ever seen. It's really good. I like it.
And mind you, prior to the release of this film, Scorsese's and De Niro had what, four, five, six films together, and so you know, I can only imagine when this was coming out, this was probably super hyped, right? Because at that time, you think the amount of great films that De Niro and Scorsese produced prior to Goodfellas, Taxi Driver, the King of Comedy. You think Raging Bull. You think that at the time they're probably at the peak of their careers, and they're sort of they would have been like I don't want to say Batman or Robin because I don't want to put like a second man to who or a first man. I'd say they're like a duo, like Batman and Superman. So I can only imagine how much hype this movie had coming in, and how excited people were to see their work again, like them working together.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree with that. Yeah. Do you have anything else left to say on Goodfellas, or do you think we can move on?
I think I'm ready to guess what the next film is
Okay, what do you think is
now.
the next film?
What do I think is the next film?
You you can do
I
it. Come on,
think
Neil.
it's
I believe in you.
Gangs in New York.
You would be correct.
Okay. All right. Gangs in New York.
Nice. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first. I'll go first on this
Okay.
one. Okay, now Gangs in New York. Gangs in New York. When how many? I'm not sure how many films Scorsese's produced prior to this. You know, in between Gangs in New York and Goodfellas, but I think this sort of tried to. I mean, it wasn't the same as Goodfellas, but it tried to mimic Goodfellas. You know what I mean? Um, Although obviously it's like it's not the same, but it's also not super different. Like you can tell they were made by the you know the same filmmaker. Just Gangs in New York, I found it more fun to watch because of the action. I thought the action was well put together. The choreography was better, you know, and having those um like those like mob fights, you know, in the middle of the street and having it all build up in the end, you know, having the um them planning it, you know, planning, training, not training, but like they were planning and then they were threatening one another and then they went on sort of like a back and forth and then up until they actually fought. I thought that element of of Gangs in New York was super fun. It made it like fun to watch. It made it intriguing. I just thought that it started a little slow. Well, maybe not the starting, but like the middle point, it was a little slow. It does drag, and again, I think that's an issue that he struggles with. You know, having his movies way too long because this movie is almost 3 hours long. It's 2 hours and 47 minutes long, and it did not need to be that long, honestly. Um, I think character wise, I like the dynamic that the DiCaprio's and the butcher, you know, Amsterdam and the butcher's the what word did I use? The you know them being together. I thought it was so cool because you know the butcher really did take him in as you know one of his own sons, trained him, taught him his ways, only to find out that you know he is the son of the man that he killed like 16 years ago, and his son has come back to seek revenge. Basically, right? He's seeking revenge for his father, and you know that the like you can definitely tell that he's hurt, right? You can tell the butcher was hurt by that, but he like all throughout the film he's been looked as emotionless. You know, he had no emotion, void of emotion, anything, stripped of anything, feels nothing. Um, he doesn't care, and so if I guess if they had the character, if they made the character more not emotional, but they had more it showed more emotion. I think that the hurt that you see in him, it definitely would have been more impactful to the viewers, right? I like if they made him more emotional. I'd feel bad for him, you know. I would feel bad for him, but the type of person he is, you know, the type of character he's become, you honestly don't care what happens to him, right? You wish the worst for him, and so that's that could have been improved on. I think the editing though, the editing was a little rough. Like it had some, yeah, it had some continuity issues. Remember there was one scene where you mentioned it in Mean Streets where the editing would be like the second cut would be a second earlier than the first cut. Yeah. I think that had I seen that in Gangs in New York a couple of times, and that could be improved. And to the fact that a filmmaker like this, you know, a filmmaker as big as Martin Scorsese at this time, make that mistake is baffling to me because, as you said, the last 30 minutes of um what was that? Goodfellas was nearly perfect, right? You know, The King of Comedy and Taxi Driver, they had amazing editing, amazing direction, and you to make those mistakes again, you just these are just some questions that you have to ask the director to get answers from.
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, I feel like this movie was kind of a step down from his previous work up until this point, I think. Because Tax Driver was really good, King of Comedy was solid, Goodfellas was amazing, and I thought, oh, he's on a hot streak, right? And then I look at this movie, like, even before I went in, I'm like, this seems kind of an odd subject, right? And it looks a bit corny, right? Like, look at the poster for this movie. Like, come on, man. Like, a dude with a mustache and like Leonardo DiCaprio with a ripped flag, and it's not it doesn't look like a professional poster. It looks like something I would make like an imaginary film. Like, I don't know, it doesn't feel professional, if that makes any sense. And then the movie itself is it's fine, I guess. I think a lot of it was a bit overhyped. Um, like the plot is basically a worse version of The Departed. It's just a worse version of The Departed. And then like Daniel Day Lewis in this movie got a lot of like he was nominated for the best actor at the Academy Awards, right? And I'm sitting here wondering, what did he do? Like, he just yelled a bunch, was very racist, and then like had one scene where he was like, oh, my childhood was very sad, and that's why I abused you. And then that's it. I'm like, what? What? Did I miss something? Did I miss the scene where he's either A, redeemed, or B, shows any kind of actual good acting? No? What? Like, it doesn't make any sense. I don't know how he got any like awards for this. Or not even awards,
He won
nominations.
or nominate? Okay, nomination. I'm fine with nominations, but if
I don't
he
know how he
won,
even got nominated. It's kind of
that's an issue.
ridiculous. And then Cameron Diaz's role in this movie was kind of like, I feel a bit maybe like bit put off to the side because she wasn't a main part of the movie, and she just kind of existed to be like, oh, like the love interest for the main character when she wasn't really a fully formed character herself. You know, at the end of the movie, I don't remember exactly what happens off the top of my head, but I think at the end of the movie, like, she doesn't they just kind of, like, she just ends up with, like, was it Amsterdam, and then that's it. Like, she doesn't actually get any like resolution for her own character arc. It's just her role is to meet the main character and then fall in love with them, even though they have nothing in common, and he's an asshole. Like, I hate that trope. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it because, like, it's never feels realistic and always takes me out of the movie when just an attractive woman falls for just like a guy, and the only reason she falls for him is because he's an asshole. Like, it doesn't make any sense. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean she's like she's not a manic pixie dream girl, but
Yeah, but
it's
she's
something
definitely
like
not a
that.
fully formed character.
Something
Yeah.
like that, right? They play this. They would play the same role. And to the plot. Honestly, if there were one person that would have like a nomination for this film, I think it would be DiCaprio. I feel like every time DiCaprio has a movie, he just kicks it out of the ballpark, like, hits it out of the ball. He's such an amazing actor, honestly.
I mean, I've only seen a couple of like bad DiCaprio performances, and like some of them are like he was given a bad script and he did his best, and like but most of the time he turns in a really solid performance. So like, yeah, I think another solid add to the DiCaprio resume.
Uh, can I guess the next film now,
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah. Go nuts. Come on, Neil, you got it.
um?
You got
Okay,
it.
hold on. Now, Shutter Island came out in 2010. I know The Departed came out before Shutter Island. So is it The Departed?
Correct. Da, 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 da.
Correct, The Departed?
Yep.
All right, The Departed. Oh my gosh, all right. Let's go. The Departed.
So, what did you think of The Departed?
First of all, before I say what I think of The Departed, I just want to express myself on what you said about um, the Gangs of New York.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much about the Gangs of New York, but
About The
more
Departed.
about The Departed.
Yeah.
You were like, What would you say again?
The Gangs in
Gangs
New
in New
York is
York.
basically a worse version of The Departed.
I, wow, I disagree so much. Gangs in New York and The Departed, they're like it's like you can't put those two titles in the same sentences, honestly, unless you're telling people what the movies that Scorsese produced and directed. The Departed is just I honest for me, it was it's one of the most enjoyable films that I've seen in a long time. It was so fun to watch. It was thrilling, It's the the um the genre is crime, right? And the whole time I was on the edge of my seat. It was like it was that compelling, and it's one of those movies. The part is one of those movies that where he didn't where the time or like the length time of the film is on point. I think if you made the movie shorter, character development lacks, story development lacks, but if you made it longer, it drag. So it clocks in at 2 hours, and I think that was perfect. That was perfect. It's sort of like modern day, not modern day mob, but modern day crime. When you'd have you know like a kingpin, and he'd have his little, I don't know, was his son or not son, right? It was like his
I
protege
mean, what
infiltrate.
is it? The I think Matt Damon was like maybe not his son directly, but basically his son, like an
Yeah,
adopted son.
yeah. So they had like a strong bond and strong relationship with one another, and that it sort of had like two stories in one storyline. You know, with the was it Matt Damon that was the that was the boy, right?
Matt
Matt.
Damon was at the cop was like the cop that was dirty, and
Yeah,
then
Matt Damon was the cop
Leonardo
that was there.
DiCaprio was the rat
The
the in the gang.
Yeah. So yeah, they'd have those two stories and then combine in one. It was it was just having that and play off of each other. I thought it was really cool. And up until the end of the movie, DiCaprio's characters and Matt Damon's characters, they hadn't known who they were, right? Like they hadn't known each other, so they don't meet up until the end. Then once they do meet, it just gets so much better. Um, I mean, it was like the last 10 minutes of the film, but up until that point, they were like so close to meeting one another. Like it was like right there. It was just that something was, you know, right in between them from them touching one another. They were so close from seeing one another, meeting one another prior to that last 10 minutes, and it just never happened. That I guess that aspect of it just made it so it's, it made it engaging. You wanted to see what actually happens in the end, and you as an audience, you just locked into the movie. It was super, like, it was just catching your attention. Not in like amazing visuals, but in a way where the plot just grabs your attention.
Yeah, I definitely agree with some parts of what you said. Now, let me refine my statement from the beginning. When I said the Gangs of New York is just the worst version of the sorry, the Gangs of New York is just the worst version of The Departed. I didn't say The Departed was bad. I like The Departed. The Departed is a good movie. I'm just saying, like, they both like involved Leonardo DiCaprio going undercover in an enemy gang in order to like figure out who like in order to like take someone down. So I'm like, if they're like a similar plot. Anyways, I like The Departed. It's a really good movie. I think the best part of it is its unpredictability because even halfway through the movie, even 75% way through the movie, I didn't know what was like. Not that I didn't know what was going on. I understood the premise of the movie. It's just I didn't know what was going to happen, and like there was lots of twists and turns and it was really an exciting film and like to watch, right? And like because I obviously knew a bit about The Departed, like I knew that like um I think like Jack Nicholson was like a dad character, and I think like Matt Damon and like Leonardo DiCaprio like they were gonna like they were facing off or something. Like I didn't know exactly, but honestly, I think it was really good, and I don't really have any major complaints about it. I mean, maybe like I think some of the like there's the therapist character, which I feel like it could have been played a bit better. Some of the some of the scenes are maybe a bit over dramatic, if that makes any sense. Leonardo DiCaprio, he's not at his best in this movie. I feel like sometimes he goes a bit overboard when he's like trying to act, because instead of like acting, it feels like he's acting instead of just acting. Um, but besides that, I think it's a really good movie. One thing I want to bring up, just because I'm looking at the Wikipedia page right now, uh, Mar- Mark Wahlberg was in this movie. Do you remember?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
was. He
yeah.
actually got he got nominated
Yeah, for best supporting
best
actor.
supporting.
What? What? Were they off the
Wait, hold
rocker?
on.
What?
Wait. Time out. Wait. Hold on. Don't. Hold on. Wait. I think his performance, you know, was great.
What did he do in this
You
movie?
know,
He just yelled.
it was.
He was just, yeah, hey,
No,
get your
hold
ass
on.
in line. That's all he
Wait.
did.
I think personally, I think it was good. You
And
know,
he just
but
killed the main
I don't
character
think
at
it was.
the end. So,
Yeah. You know, he was just a character plot. You know, he's just a character that you use just so that the plot works, right?
yeah. He definitely didn't deserve a supporting actor
No, I don't
nomination
think he did.
at
I
the
don't think.
Oscars. What the?
I don't think he
The
did.
fact that Mark Wahlberg has a best supporting actor nomination when he's doing stuff like not cheap movies but like family movies is ridiculous. That's like Adam Sandler having an Academy Award nomination, or like Kevin James having an Academy Award nomination. Like what? What? It doesn't make any sense. Anyways, good movie. Like it a lot. Jack Nicholson is also very good in this movie.
He was tremendous in this movie. And then again, hold on. Like I don't exactly know like the categories as to what a supporting actor is um what in the Academy Awards. Like I don't think did he even have enough screen time to be?
I don't think it's about screen time. I think supporting
It's
actor
not.
is like any actor that isn't the main actor. And you can argue that both like Leonardo DiCaprio and Matt Damon were both supporting and leading actors. If anything, Jack Nicholson should have gotten something for Best Supporting Actor. Where was he? Why was Wahlberg nominated? What is this man doing? Who did he pay? Who did he pay to get nominated?
Who did he pay, man? Oh my gosh. Okay, I think we've rattled enough about The Departed.
Yeah.
I think we can move on.
Yeah. Can you guess the next film? Wait, you already know the next film.
Yeah, Shutter
Island. So,
Yeah, Shutter Island.
I think I'm gonna go first for Shutter Island.
You can go first, man. You can go first.
Okay, so going into this movie, I honestly had no idea what the hell it was gonna be about. I didn't look at the Wikipedia page. I didn't know nothing. I was actually surprised that what's his face was in this movie. I can't remember his name. Mark Ruffalo was in this movie, because I actually had no idea that he was actually gonna be there. And then I went in, and through the first, I think, 30 minutes, I was hooked, right? And I'm like, okay, so this is like a murder mystery. Where are they gone? How is like what's gonna be set up? There's like, what's the solution here? All the seems possible. They're trapped on the island. I love the atmosphere. Yes. And then slowly over the course of the movie, it just kind of disappointed me, because the first 30 minutes is great setup. It sets up the entire movie, and there's so many places you can go from there. But for the next hour, they do they do nothing. And then like they kind of just like wall around the island trying to like find things out. And then in the final hour of the movie, they reveal, oh, hey, by the way, everything you just saw, most of it was like Leonardo DiCaprio freaking out, like he's off his rocker, and we're gonna show you how he by our math he's crazy, and now he's never gonna change, and how he like I don't know if I like the ending. I'm gonna say that I like the ending. I think the ending is a very like I think it's a very fitting ending for the movie, because it turns out I'm not a huge fan of it. It's all a dream kind of thing, but I like the whole look at like how he thinks he's like you think he's insane. right? Like how sorry, the people think he's insane, how he's actually a patient of this facility, and how he needs to put the gun down, and how there's like Mark Ruffalo has actually been his therapist, and he's trying to like or his psychiatrist, and he's trying to calm him down and everything. I think that's a really good ending, but everything in the middle is kind of it doesn't nothing really much compelling happens, and personally, I think the ending makes I think a crucial mistake. I think at the end it could have just ended with what is it? Was it the doctor on the island talking to the guy saying, "Hey, Leonardo DiCaprio, he's off his meds again. He wasn't working, and he wasn't like doing good." It could have just ended like that. But instead, what happened is that Mark Ruffalo decided to go over to him, and it confirmed in the movie that what is it? Leonardo DiCaprio is actually crazy. He's not just like he didn't actually come to this island. He's just crazy, right? But I feel like it would have been more interesting if they didn't confirm it. If they always left you with a bit of thing, sure, of course, this all makes sense, right? But what if they're just lying to him? What if he's actually here and they've declared him crazy when he's not, right? I think that would have been a more interesting ending if they left it slightly open rather than closing the book on it and saying this is the answer forever. I feel like it would have been more interesting if they just left the door slightly open.
Like an open interpretation. Is that what
Yeah,
you're trying to say?
I think
Yeah,
the
yeah,
ending
yeah.
should have been more open for interpretation.
Sort of like I guess Interstellar, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if Interstellar, but
Yeah.
like I want a movie the ending where like sure, of course, that there's like the easy answer to it, but there's also the answer where it's more like, okay, is this actually correct? Is what we see really true?
Oh, sort of like Joker. Is that what
Yeah,
you're trying to
I
say?
guess. Yeah. Is
'Cause I
it?
think I
I
think
want an ending like that.
yeah, I think yeah, I think Shutter Island definitely has um the capacity to have an ending something like have the ending to be something like that, right? Open interpretation. But me personally, the movie was alright, right? But it just freaked me out, man. This movie
It's just
was
messed with you.
yes, it messed with me. You know, it was like it's not like Inception type of messing. It's sort of like you know what is that character's name? Like Scarecrow's type of messing. He's mess around with your fears. Cause it like to believe that he was because up until the end you were seeing what DiCaprio's character was seeing. You believed that was the truth, right? Then in the end they tell you, oh, that's not true. That's just all deception. That was all a lie. I don't know. For me, it just freaked me out, man. It was just I had to like sleep with lights on for the next week and a half.
I
But I
get.
think
I guess I
yeah,
get that reaction.
I mean, again, I'm not a horror guy, all right? So you have to bear with me when it comes to horror or thrill type of film.
I hope you don't consider this
Um,
a horror. I mean, or even a thriller. This isn't even much of
I
anything,
mean,
man. Like
what?
your bar must be pretty
Uh,
low. I don't know.
I mean, I had to cover my eyes and shut my ears at some point, but
Okay, okay, hey. Then I guess don't watch the next movies. Just close your eyes and we'll be fine. We'll be.
it was all right. Do
What do
you
you
have
think?
anything more to say about Shutter Island?
No.
Because no, okay. Now I know what the next three movies are at least. I think
Okay.
I know the
What's the
next one
next
is
film?
The Wolf of Wall Street, right?
Okay. Do you want to go
Is
first
it?
about the? Yeah, it is.
Okay, all right.
Correct.
I guess I got it right then.
Yeah.
The Wolf of
Do you
Wall.
want
Okay,
to?
you want me to go first? All right, I'll go first.
Okay.
Okay, now The Wolf of Wall Street. Now it's interesting because The Wolf of Wall Street is again just like Raging Bull. It's real life events, right? From a character that lived on Earth. I think he's still alive. Like Jordan Belfort.
Yeah, he's
I think
still hanging around.
he's still alive, right? Yeah, and so this was back when he was a broker, a stockbroker, and then he had this whole basically what happened with his life was happening in this film. Now the story is great. The story is amazing. That in of itself sold like what, millions of copies as a book, because this was a book, a memoir by Jordan Belfort. That in itself sold millions of copies. But the execution was, it made it amazing. It made the story from great to amazing. The pace of the film, although it's almost 3 hours long, is it 3 hours long? Yeah, exactly 3 hours long. The pace felt like you were watching a film that was an hour and a half long. Maybe not an hour and a half. Maybe that's a stretch. Maybe 2 hours long. And I thought the whole like the character Jordan Belfort, he was interesting. He was an interesting guy, and how he was shown on screen. He made it, it made him more interesting. How he uses all his money to get basically whatever he wanted, right? He used his money to get whatever he wanted. He did not care, and he's just rich, right? He's just rich, and he got rich in a way where he did it, through virtue and being a good guy. He did it dirty, right?
Yeah,
He
he
did it
exploited a
the
lot of
wrong
like
way.
vulnerable people.
Exactly. He did it the worst, maybe not the worst way, but every way that he did it was wrong. And so how it was shown on screen, that was like it showed it like the movie did not try to portray him as glorious, as a good guy. It showed him that, this guy's he's a bad person. He's criminal. One, he exploits people. Two, three, he cares for nothing. And so I appreciate how that shows, and most of it shows through his narration, and then through the narration again, you'd have those what's it called, those like scenes going on while the character is narrating, and
There's the contrast, I
there
think,
was, yeah, 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 there
between what
wasn't a
he's
point in the
saying and
film.
like what's actually happening.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And there wasn't a point in the film where I was bored. I thought it was, it just, captured my attention the whole time. Because up until this point, we've been saying how, some of the films had, weak spots. But I think this, Wolf of Wall Street, I'm not saying it's perfect, but it was it was able to, capture my attention for 3 hours long, man. 3 hours long. That's like an eighth of your day, or a fourth of your day. So props to um Martin Scorsese and the writer, which would, I guess, would be Jordan Belfort. But yeah, the ending. I mean, I don't know how you'd be able to change the ending, honestly, but it was all right, I guess. Like that, I'd say if there was like one point where it wasn't like the peak, I think it'd be the ending, but not so much though. It was still interesting, right?
Yeah, but
Not
it just
not so
wasn't.
much.
It wasn't what you not maybe not what you wanted, but what you were expecting. What you think he could have done better.
Exactly, because up until the ending, it's sort of like it peaked in the beginning and plateaued, and then the end dipped a little bit.
Okay. I think in my opinion, this is maybe second or maybe tied for first as Scorsese's best film because because I really like because I went to this movie honestly expecting to not like it because I thought okay like this movie's probably gonna glorify what he does and it's probably gonna be like kind of like like sure Leonardo DiCaprio's probably gonna give a great performance but he's not gonna actually do anything he's just gonna kind of thing. Like he's just gonna kind of sit there and take his paycheck, I guess. And I was guessing that the plot wasn't gonna be engaging because who thinks stockbroking is interesting? Like nobody. The answer is nobody. And if they tell you they do, they're lying. Um, and so I thought I wasn't gonna like this movie, but I went in and I watched it and I sat there for 3 hours and I'm like, wow, this is a good movie. Like I was consistently entertained because I thought I wasn't going to be, but I was. And a lot of it, I guess, came down to the energy of the movie because the pacing of this movie, I think, is perfect. Maybe perfect is the right word because it keeps this constant forward momentum and energy because you never feel like all the time Scorsese's other movies where he's just kind of get from scene to scene. Like there's no actual bridge. Like I felt like he wrote this movie all in one sitting. Like that's how fluid the pacing was between from scene to scene. And it was kind of ridiculous, honestly. But personally, I think I may tie for Scorsese's best movie. I think the crucial part of this movie is that the the movie it presents like him as a garbage human being, which he is, but it doesn't do it in a way that I think is maybe do it in like an obvious preachy way where it's like this looks such a garbage human being, look at how garbage he is, but instead it does it through the filmmaking and through his character because remember he's telling this story, right? And obviously he wants to make himself seem like a good person, but the thing is he's not. And so you can see that whenever he like glosses over somebody's death or when he basically doesn't count a person like one of his like actual companies as being exploitative. It's just making money, or how he thinks he's like on top of the world when really he's not, right? And so I think that is like his how he tells them, like even though what is it, Jordan Belfort is the main character, he's the perspective character, he can't escape the fact that he's a like a like a real like bad person. He's like an actual exploitative terrible person no matter how he tells his story. And I think that is a really good message, not a message, maybe a good like take on the movie, and a really good like a powerful take, I guess, because it shows how even if you can try to tell the story from your perspective all you want, but if you're like truly a bad person, your like your ugliness will shine through no matter how much like polish you try to put in your story. Because when his friend is choking and like he laughs, or when like he abuses his wife and he doesn't even say anything, or when like he ignores his wife and doesn't say anything, or where like all that stuff, it slowly builds up over the movie, and in the end maybe he's not punished for it like he should be, because in real life he wasn't punished for it. But I think maybe this is a reality where, because obviously it's a real life story, and in real life he wasn't punished for it. He got to publish a book, right? And I think maybe he's Martin Scorsese is saying that he should have been punished. And you look how bad he is. He should have been punished, but he wasn't. And I think that's a powerful message.
One other thing about this movie was the performance. I don't think from all the actors, I don't think there was one actor that did a really, not even a really bad job, like a mediocre job. I think DiCaprio again.
Everyone was
Yes,
on point.
everybody went on their A game. DiCaprio, obviously, is amazing. Margot Robbie was amazing. Jonah Hill was amazing, man. He was great in this film. Even someone like Christine Milioti. Sorry if I butchered that name, but the amount of screen time she had, she still showed out, right? She did her job. She did amazing, and
And Margot Robbie also really, this was her breakout
oh
role.
yeah,
She also did really good in this
oh
film.
yeah, oh yeah. And so I think part of that made it a more amazing film. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it definitely contributed to it.
It contributes a lot, and so I don't think there was one actor, one character that was really not really bad, but it was
Obviously bad or
mediocre,
poor, or even like like noticeable. It was all, everyone was on their A game.
noticeable. Yeah, exactly.
So let's go to the second last film, which is do you think you know it, Neil? Right?
Silence.
You have a 50%
Yeah,
chance
yeah,
of getting
Silence.
this correct.
Yeah, I mean, like I have a 50-50
Yeah.
chance, right? So Silence. I'm going for Silence.
Okay, so what did you think of Silence?
So Silence. Uh, Before I got into the movie, I actually heard about this movie from a friend of mine. I think this was released when in 2016, right, or earlier. Some yeah. So I heard it from a friend, and she was telling me how it was a good movie, right? And then I went to go watch the movie, um, and I did honestly I did not like it. It's just everything about that movie was just eh, you know. The pacing was terrible. It was what 2 hours and 45 minutes long, but it felt like a whole day. I kid you not. Like 30 minutes in, I was checking what time it is. That's how bad it was, honestly. um, I mean, honestly, like nothing about it was good, other than I guess maybe the directing, the visuals. I think how they executed to show the story was pretty good. How Martin Scorsese did that, it was pretty good. But other than that, honestly, the story isn't too intriguing. The performance was subpar from Adam Driver and Andrew Garfield. I think they're what are they, Italian friars? Am I right? Yeah, but yeah, there's some European friars, right? But so they had an accent, but sometimes when they get too dramatic, right? When they're like trying to show more emotion, the accent just fades away. So they just sound American, or they just sound like themselves, right? And so that inconsistency threw me off a little bit in terms of the actors. And this story is actually pretty quite accurate from what actually happened with, like, Catholics going into Japan. They were persecuted, they were killed, this is what happened to them, right? But it, just the story itself was not intriguing. It wasn't eye catching. It wasn't fun. It was nothing. It was honestly nothing. It was just, honestly, if anything, it's just cool to watch. It's just a bunch of you know cool scenes put together. And but I mean, you could argue that um the ending makes up for it, but honestly, it does not. It does not. The ending, the ending was good, right? But with a movie as, I guess, as dreadful as that was, from beginning up all the way till before the ending, that it couldn't be saved.
Those are some very hot takes you got yourself there.
Yeah.
Personally, I think I actually really like this movie. I know I'm not like a huge fan of like slow burn kind of movies because usually I get
Hmm.
bored. But this is a film that really managed to draw me in over time. Like I had no idea what the plot was going to be about. All I knew was about these priests, and they were like they were not going to go through some good times. This wasn't going to be a good like a movie where they have some fun. They're going to be tortured, right? Or like not tortured, but like they're going to endure
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
hardships. And so my whole thing was like, okay, let's see, let's see if I can meet this movie where it is. I don't have. I'm not going to try to like expect this movie to be like fast paced. I'm gonna try like, okay, let's get into like a slow mood. Let's try like meet this film on its own
Hmm.
terms. And when I did that, I really enjoyed
Hmm.
it because while it is a slow movie, and while sometimes it can get a bit boring or it can get a bit like repetitive in like I think the middle-ish parts, or sometimes it is overly long, like you said. I feel like if you are able to meet this movie on its own terms, I feel like it works better because the performances. I completely disagree with the performances. I thought the performances were really
Really?
good. Andrew Garfield and Liam Neeson are both very talented actors, and you can clearly tell in this as they're putting all of it, like all of themselves, into it. Adam Driver is also really good, even though he's in the movie for less than I thought. He's in it for like 30 minutes or something when he was like a pretty big
Yeah.
part of the marketing. So, eh. And then I don't know. I found the story really interesting. Maybe I was the whole dilemma of, is he going to like forsake his faith or anything? Like, is he really going to like go all the way? Is he going to commit to like this new lifestyle in Japan? And so it was a really like interesting dynamic. And then the whole, I feel like maybe the first half of the movie was maybe really slow, but once he was but once it got really tense, once he was alone, I feel like that's when the movie got really good because then Andrew Garfield's performance was allowed to shine. And then it also was more tension because it wasn't with Adam Driver anymore, because he wasn't with
Hmm.
anybody else anymore. He had to, the only person he was maintaining his faith for was for himself, right? And so it was a much more interesting dynamic that way. There's no one to hold him accountable. He could have defected immediately and saved himself all that pain and all the suffering, all the people around him, but he decided not to,
Yeah.
right? And so that's a very interesting thing. Like, how far will you go for your
Yeah.
faith? I feel like that's a really interesting question. And while this movie doesn't answer it, it certainly proposes an outcome which I find really interesting. And the ending, you also said you liked the ending. I really liked the ending because I was wondering how it was gonna end. Did like the whole question of did this guy actually like go against his faith? Did he actually like you know go like did he forsake his like whole faith, his whole journey just to like fit in with the
Hmm.
culture in Japan? And then because really we don't know, like all of us we don't know. Martin Scorsese could be talking out of his ass right here, but when he has like the little Jesus figure in his hands at the end, I feel like that's a really powerful message about faith and everything. I feel like it was a really good movie. I feel like it was better than I expected it
Oh,
to be, but I still see where you're coming from with your issues. Length and
yeah.
pacing and all that.
So you expected it to be subpar, but it was better than subpar.
Yeah, I expected it to be like average, maybe a
Yeah.
bit boring, but like it was
Oh
actually
wow.
pretty interesting.
See, I sort of had like the opposite expectation. I thought it would be like extremely good, super cool, but fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
But it was the complete opposite of that, and so my
Yeah.
expectations were not met, and so I was disappointed. Obviously.
Yeah. What
Okay.
can you do?
Yeah.
The power of
Yeah.
expectations, I guess.
See, I guess that's sometimes uh I guess the issue when you go to watch a movie, right? Your expectations. If you have super high expectations and they don't, you know, the movie doesn't meet your expectation, it could be a really good movie, right? But if your expectations are so high that it doesn't still meet it, you'd still be unsatisfied with the movie.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess on to the final film, The Irishman. Probably, maybe this. I hope this isn't controversial. Scorsese's magnum opus. That doesn't mean it's his best film, in my opinion. It means it's certainly his most extensive and long and dense film. I think that's what I'm trying to say here. It's his most film. It's like the film that's the pinnacle of his career. What he's like trying to work towards. What he's trying to like. What he's done through all his past films. He's trying to merge it all together into this for this one huge
I think,
story.
yeah,
So Neil,
I'd agree. I'd
what
agree
did you
with what you
think?
said. Um, I think that's what happened. That's what happens with the Irishman. The Irishman, it's interesting. It's really good. I think it was a good movie. I liked it. It's that classic crime drama Scorsese film that you're looking for, right? If you think of Martin Scorsese, you think of gangsters, you think of drama, you think of violence, and The Irishman delivers in every aspect of that. And on top of that, you have pretty good performances on the actors who you could argue they're, so to speak, out of their prime, right? So what's his name? Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci. Those guys right now, when that movie came out, was they're like well past their primes, and they're like what 70-year olds now. Depending on when you hear this, they'd probably be a lot older, but at that time, they 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 were 70 something. And it's actually interesting. Al Pacino. You remember? You think of Al Pacino, you think of a gangster, right? From what's that one movie? Uh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, Scarface, right? But this is actually the very first time Al Pacino and Scorsese worked together in a film, which is so you know interesting because when you think of gangster films, you think of Al Pacino and his Scarface, The Godfather, and then at the same time you think of director like Martin Scorsese, and then just to think that it take them over what 50 years to work together is it seems unbelievable, right? But besides that, I think this was a pretty good movie. I had pretty high expectations for it, honestly, and it did meet expectation. It did meet expectation. Despite the age, I think Pacino and Pesci and De Niro and all the other cast, I think they did a pretty good job with their performances. Um, Other than that, I don't think I have any. I don't have any complaints like I do with
Silence.
with silence.
Damn,
Yeah,
you really just hate silence, huh?
I mean, I wouldn't say hate, but I dislike it
Dislike it very strongly.
strongly. Yes.
What I personally thought of the
What do you?
yeah,
What,
what I personally thought of the
yeah. What do you think?
Irishman was see, a lot of Scorsese movies, they fall into this kind of like niche for me where it's like it's good. It may even be great, but I'm just not a person that's really interested in the genre, or maybe it's not scratching that itch for me. You know, like like a lot of his like early movies, like Shutter Island, or or like The King of Comedy. They're good, maybe even great, but they're just not like anything that I would go like recommend, or anything I would say, oh yeah, you gotta watch this, or anything like that I would even talk about after I finish it if it wasn't for this podcast, right? And so The Irishman, I feel like for most of its runtime is a movie like that. It's where it's decent, it's even very good, but you know, it's just not anything I'd go crazy about, or anything I'd say like, oh yeah, you gotta watch this, or it's a top film of the year, or anything. It's good, it's maybe even great, but it's not amazing, right? And maybe that's just me. Maybe it's just I'm not super interested in the types of movies Scorsese likes to make. But for most of this movie, it was kind of like a standard, I guess, like was it Scorsese movie? You know, you have like the mob, you know, and then you have like the characters, like you know, trying out with each other, and like it's interesting, but it's not exactly great. But the film does something interesting because a lot of the time when you have a runtime of this long, it oftentimes the movie turns into a slog, right? Because it's like super long and you want to just get through it. But for this, the kind of the opposite happened. I was really bored. Well, not bored. I was like kind of disinterested for the first like hour and a half, maybe even 2 hours into the movie. But then like in the back, maybe like 30 minutes, maybe like back maybe 40-ish minutes, I was really interested because as the main character grew older, he became more complicated. Because at the beginning, he was kind of like a very simple character. There wasn't much to him, and the dynamics between everyone else wasn't very interesting, right? It wasn't very complex. But as he got older, those relationships deepened, and then like you could see how one thing led to another, led to like how he had to murder his friend, and how he had gotten himself mixed up in all this mess, and how while they were driving, and you know, it was really complicated. Like near the end it got really complicated, and I really like that. I feel like I like the end of Scorsese's movies more than I like any other part, because what he's really doing is good at like forging these relationships and these characters, and then letting them grow, and then eventually they grow into these super complex webs of like human connection, and then that's when he shatters it all apart. I feel like that's a really good thing which he does in this movie, right? Because you get to see the ending of what is it? How not he dies. You don't see his death, but the main character, how he goes into a retirement home, and like he's surrounded by things he doesn't understand, and he's barely even alive anymore. He's not even living, right? But he's still, I guess, him. You can, you know, the final shot of the movie is him asking like what, like just asking the person to leave the door open while he's just sitting in a room, and he just looks like any other old man, right? He just looks like you would, if you see him in a retirement home, wouldn't look twice, right? And all of his life, all the things he's endured, all of like the things he's gone through, all the adventures, I guess is a word, that he's experienced result in that, like no big finish, no grand finale, just that, because in reality life isn't a movie. You don't get the climax and then you're done, right? What happens actually is you have your climax and then there's a long slow trek down, right? I feel like he really mastered keeping the trek down interesting, the wind down of the movie very interesting. And so I feel like that The Irishman is a really good movie for its like back 40 minutes. Like it's, I call it even amazing. Like if the whole Irish movie was like back 40 minutes, I recommend it. But because it has that hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes taped onto the first part, I don't know if I can recommend it. I definitely like it, but I don't think I like it as much as I could have.
Okay. Before we move on with the tier list, you know, a big part of this movie was the de aging technology that they used on De Niro and basically all the other old actors to make them look young. It was like a big marketing scheme, bro. Like they had like everywhere. You know, you hear the Irishman. Next thing you hear it was de aging technology. Yeah. What do you think? Like, what do you think of that? You think they should have, I guess, used I don't know, like hired younger actors to play younger Frank or younger Jimmy, or what do you think?
Okay, see, I feel like there's two very distinct like camps for like digital de aging. There's one where I feel it's unnecessary and you can just cast younger actors, right? Like for example, in Doctor Sleep, in the flashbacks in 1980s, they could have just CGI'd like could have taken an actor that kind of looks like Danny Torrance and just CGI'd his face onto him, right? And it probably would have looked fine. Like maybe there would have been a shots too that would have been distracting, but I feel like you always lose something with the digital de aging. You always lose something, some part of their performance, right? And I feel like that's why I'm generally against it. That's why I always prefer them just cast younger actors or cast actors that maybe what is it like or like not maybe not similar looking but like similar enough because oftentimes it doesn't pull you out of the movie. Oftentimes digital de-aging pulls you out of the movie because it's just a limitation of like technology. It'd be great, yeah, it'd be great if every actor can just switch instantaneously between being young, old, so we can see this kind of growth over their lives. But that's not how it works, and so sometimes the digital de-aging was distracting. Most times it was fine. I just wish maybe instead of having a digital de aging, they just cast some actors that maybe look like them, or they don't even have to look that much like them. Just get good young actors, you know. And so maybe like have the older actors mentor them, so they know how to act and they know how to like even like down to small mannerisms because that's something you can do. Like actors, they train their whole life to act, you know? And so I don't see why you're kind of restricting yourself. No, we only must use these actors. Are you losing something that you're not having Robert De Niro playing like a 20-year-old? I guess. But I feel like maybe that 20-year-old should be played by a 20
Mm-hmm.
year old.
That who looks like Robert De Niro. Um, I don't know. They probably cost a lot of money, right? Because
The whole budget of the movie was 100 like 160 to 250 million, right? So the CGI definitely cost like a significant portion of that.
a significant portion, for sure. I think that's probably I heard that a lot of because Scorsese he wanted to use the aging tool and CGI and whatnot, and so a lot of what is it called? A lot of studios turned down just because of the budget, right? It's a lot. It's a lot of money, and it's interesting how in the end Netflix would be the one funding and producing uh The Irishman. I just find it pretty. I don't know. It's cool because it's someone as big as Scorsese in the film industry and just overall gets to work with Netflix, who you know in the past they haven't had the best record of producing originals, right? But aside from that, I think I said The Irishman. I really enjoyed The Irishman. It was fun.
Mm-hmm. I definitely it was a good movie.
But also at the time of this release and at the time of this recording, this is the Scorsese's most recent film. Which so honestly, I think I wouldn't be mad if his career ended with The
I
Irishman.
think he's gonna do one more movie on his Wikipedia page. Do something called Killers of the Flower Moon. It's apparently a western.
A western. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I guess not.
I mean, hey, I mean, how bad could it possibly be, right? I guess maybe he, I don't know, because how old is Scorsese? He's like what in his 80s or something. Like he's been making movies for like 40 years, or not even 50 years. Yeah, 50 years. He's making. Well, technically, he made Mean Streets in the 70s, so he's making
70s.
movies for
Wow.
50 years.
And
I don't know,
then
man.
the movie that you just said would probably release in the 2020s. So
Yeah.
that's 50 years of making movies.
Jesus.
It's a long career, man.
And that's just feature films. Like, imagine how much stuff is like Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah, for sure. Wow.
I mean, hey, I mean, if I had a chance to make movies for like 50 years, I'd probably do it, but I'd probably run out of ideas around year 10. So
Yeah. Just blank out after 10 years.
yeah, it's just like, oh, so what do you want to do next?
do do the same one that you did 5 years ago, but with better actors.
Oh yeah, and then 5 years. Then what do you want to do now? Oh, let's do the same thing we did 5 years ago, but now with even better actors. And then
No,
slowly
no,
over
with
time, I make the best
yeah.
movie of all time, but just replacing them with the younger actors.
Well, I think we've covered all of Martin Scorsese. Well, not all, because he definitely has more than 10 movies, right? We all know that. We just said after 50 years of making movies, he
Yeah,
definitely
you
has
don't
more than 10
make
movies.
10 movies over 50 years.
So yeah, we've covered all the movies that we wanted to cover in this episode so far. It's how long has it been? Like an hour and 30 minutes. So I think it's only fair that we move on now to the tier list.
Yeah.
So
So
how do you want to do it from ascending order, from newest to no, not newest, oldest to newest, or
let's go newest to oldest. Let's go newest to
oldest?
oldest.
All right.
Okay. So I guess we just talked about The Irishman. Where would you rank it tier list?
The Irishman, I would rank it at A tier.
A tier.
Yeah.
I'm also gonna put The Irishman at A tier.
Okay, fair. What's next? Silence?
Silence. Where'd you put Silence?
Oh my gosh. Like D tier? Is
D
that like
tier?
the worst I could put it? Is that the worst I could put it? Or
that's
right?
that's pretty low.
Yeah.
You're not a very negative guy, so you putting
Right.
Silence at D tier is kind
That's
of
what I'm saying. Like how many of all the tier lists that we've done, I think this is the lowest one.
That's kind of surprising.
Silence is the lowest one that I've put, right?
I think so.
Yeah. What about you?
I think I'm gonna put it in. I don't know. It's kind of between B and A tier, maybe high B, low A tier, because like some parts of it are like A tier, and some parts of it are like B tier, or even C tier. So I'm gonna put it like B plus tier. I'm gonna make up a tier, B plus. There you go. I've done it.
All right, B plus. What's next?
Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh man, bro, S tier. I think
S tier.
I think you said earlier this was what, his second best movie that you.
I know. I said it was like my favorite movie of his, or maybe tied for like first.
That's what I'm saying. I think Wolf of Wall Street is also my favorite movie. Well, tied for first.
Yeah.
Of my favorite Wolf of Wall Street, because it was 3 hours long, and all 3 hours I was, I was watching the movie. I was intrigued, so that's why I put it at S tier. And you?
Sorry, Neil. I was just doing something. You can just cut this out in the recording. Sorry, the phone was ringing in the background.
Sorry.
Oh. Okay. In my personal opinion, Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, I'll cut it. Don't worry.
A tier. It's not S tier. Sorry. It's S tier is only for like basically my like top 10 movies of all time. Right? You only get into S tier if you're like blow me away. Right?
Okay, that's fine.
Wolf of Wall Street definitely was better than I thought and was definitely really good. It was, in fact, I call it amazing. But like, it's not S tier. It is A tier though. A tier is still good. A tier is pass. You're getting into university if you get A tier.
A tier is still pretty good.
Mm-hmm. No. S tier is for scholarship.
So what happens if you get S tier?
Okay.
You get a scholarship.
Shutter Island.
Yeah.
B tier.
Yeah. Shutter Island. I think I'd put this at B tier.
I think I'm gonna go with.
Yeah, I think for me B tier would be fit.
It's good, and I like it. I like it. I like certain parts of it a lot, but some of it isn't as good as it could have been, and I'm more disappointed than kind of like. I guess it's not a bad movie, but I'm disappointed. So it's C tier. The Departed.
Okay.
The Departed.
Yes. Okay, C tier. What's next? What do we have next? Guys, The Departed? Okay. Oh my gosh, The Departed? I think I'd have to put that at
S tier.
See, now I don't want to put it at S tier. I don't think it No, no, I definitely I'd put it at S tier. I think I'd put it at S tier. It's one of the most
That's
fun
some
movie
high
that I've
praise,
seen
Neil.
from Scorsese. The Wolf of Wall Street and The Departed, like two super fun movies.
Wow.
Yeah, look, The Departed. I honestly think it's a must watch.
Damn.
I
Okay.
think
Okay. For
if you're
me,
gonna watch Martin Scorsese, I
The
think
Departed is
definitely
B
watch The
tier.
Departed.
It's good. It's even very good. Maybe I am lowballing it a bit, but right now I'm not remembering maybe
B
its
tier.
high moments.
Oh my
But I'm
god,
kind of remembering like the
you're
low
definitely
moments right now.
lowballing it.
I don't know. Maybe when I'm in a better mood, I'll rate it like A tier.
Yeah.
But for now, it's staying in B tier.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Next is Gangs of New York.
All right. Okay. B tier.
B tier.
Gangs in New York. I think I'd put
For
it at B
me,
tier.
I think I'm gonna go with
Yeah,
C
alongside
tier.
Shutter Island. B
Yeah,
tier.
I mean it's good. It's fine. It's just I don't know. I'm not a
C tier.
huge fan
Okay.
of the whole premise, I guess. And plus, Daniel Day Lewis is like way overrated in this movie. Like he's like, oh, you should be getting awards
Mm-hmm.
and everything. Like he's just yelling. Like calm down. Like no,
Okay.
yeah, he was nominated, but like still, even to be nominated, he was just yelling, and then you got one scene where he was sad
Did he?
because
Wait, no, he was
for
just
some
nominated, right?
stupid
Or
reason.
did
Now
he
they're like,
actually?
hey, look,
Yeah.
we should give him an award. I'm like, no. That's
Yeah. Well, I
that's
mean,
a crime. That
they did
we'll get to
nominate
Mean Streets.
De Niro
We'll get to
for Mean
Mean
Streets, right?
Streets.
So.
Next is Goodfellas.
We'll get to Mean Streets. Goodfellas. Now you see Goodfellas. I really like Goodfellas, but again, there were parts of Goodfellas where it was just not alright. It was just I wasn't as I guess excited as I was like in like how I felt in The Departed and The Wolf of Wall Street. So with that being
Yeah.
said, I don't think I'd be able to put it up there. I'm not saying it's a bad movie. It's just saying subjectively how I felt watching The Wolf of Wall Street and The Departed did not feel I didn't feel that
I love how
when
A
I was
tiers
watching
are your
Goodfellas.
low. It's like,
So I think
okay, it
I'd have to
wasn't
put
that good. I'll
Goodfellas
just
with
put it in A tier.
Irishman at A tier. Yeah.
No. I'm saying like it's funny because like it's a good movie, but like the way you were talking
Is
about it,
that
it's like
what?
okay, fine.
No,
I'll like fine.
it was a good movie, but
I'll
it was
just put it in A tier. Like A tier isn't like I don't know. Maybe I have higher standards than you do. For me, Goodfellas is also going to be an A tier, but for a different reason. I
yeah,
really like
yeah,
Goodfellas. It's really good.
yeah.
A significant step up from like all of his previous stuff from that point, and probably Scorsese's like first, maybe second, or maybe tied for first best
It's
movie.
just not.
At least in my opinion, from what I've watched. So yeah, very good Goodfellas. Love the whole back half of it. It's very good. Next is The King of Comedy.
Yeah. King of Comedy. Now the King of Comedy. Overall was, at, again, when I was watching the King of Comedy, I had the exact same feeling I had when I was watching The Wolf of Wall Street. Although some parts of the King of Comedy was subpar, I think it was still overall a really good movie. So again, just like I said for The Departed, if you're gonna watch Martin Scorsese, I think you have to watch King
S
of Comedy.
tier. Wow.
It's a must-watch Scorsese movie.
You liked it that much?
And so
Okay.
I'm gonna have to put it at S tier. Yeah, S tier.
Okay.
Yes. Hey, it was a good story. The performance
Okay.
was
Okay.
amazing. And it was
For me, The
exciting,
King of Comedy is gonna be B tier.
Every
It's good.
single criteria. Check.
Nah, it's not lowballing.
Whoa, no,
It's
okay, you're
called us
definitely
being
you're
selective.
definitely lowballing all these movies,
So
man.
King Colony is good, but like I don't know, man. I'm just not like because you're describing like it's like so good. I'm gonna like
Okay,
I'm
all
just not
right,
feeling
all
that.
right,
I'm just not
okay,
feeling that.
okay.
Okay. Uh, next film is Raging Bull.
Oh, Raging Bull. I think I've expressed how much I was so disappointed in this movie. It's not as bad
C
as
tier.
Silence
Wow.
though, so it can't be
I'm gonna
D
put
tier.
Raging
So
Bull
I think
in B
Raging Bull
tier,
would have to
maybe
go
high
S.
B tier, B plus tier. I think because it's really
Yeah.
good, and there are a lot of great moments, but like sometimes like it kind of drags a bit, and maybe I feel like there should have been more.
Wow. Really?
I guess I don't know, more of something else. I guess I don't know what to put my finger on it, but like there's something missing. I feel from the movie. Like sure, it was like a an expression of like that guy's whole life and everything, but maybe I feel like there's something missing from it. Like because there's a lot of
Okay.
time jumps, and I feel like those time jumps could have been really interesting to explore. But whatever, movies can't be 4 hours every time. Okay, next movie. Uh, Taxi Driver.
Sorry. Well, continue.
A tier.
Taxi Driver.
Wow.
Again, really good movie.
No, 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 no.
Amazing
It's
performance.
no, no. Hey, hey,
A
hey.
tier.
let me.
Yeah. That's fair, or is that
I
too
think Taxi
too high?
Driver
You
is
think that's too high,
B tier.
eh?
It's just that's the thing is when Martin Scorsese movies, they're good, but they're not A tier. They're
Oh
just
man,
B tier. They're
everybody's
like
living in the
good.
beast
Like
today.
congratulations, you're above average, but you're not gonna get into university with these grades. You gotta have maybe you'll get into a really good college or something. And then last and definitely least, Mean Streets.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's fair. Mean
Don't think too long.
Streets.
We got a timer here.
I'll let you start out with Mean Streets. I have to think about Mean Streets for a bit.
So what I thought of Mean Streets was that it wasn't a very good movie, and I don't
Okay, yeah, we do.
understand all the hype.
Sorry, continue.
Maybe if I was living in the 70s, it would have been like, hey, wow, what a great movie. You know, let's go eat. I was gonna do an Italian accent. Let's go eat some pizzas and some meatballs. But right now, looking back on it, it's just not very good or competent, or the characters are pretty terrible. It's pretty repetitive. There's no good camera work. The editing is noticeably awful, and the story is ridiculously backloaded, so it doesn't
Okay.
really make any sense. So yeah, Mean Streets is not good. D tier. D tier. D tier. D. Like David.
Sorry, D tier.
Yeah, it'd be
D
funny if
tier.
I was like, this movie is terrible.
Sorry,
S tier.
I keep hearing B, man. I'm like B. You were hating on it, and then you say B tier.
C tier.
No, I'd have to put Mean Streets at C tier. I think.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not as bad.
Controversial
as Silence,
opinions
but
abound
it
in this
isn't
one.
any-
How do we agree on
it
any
isn't
movie in
much
this
better,
list?
right? So C tier.
Irishman. Okay, we both agree on the Irishman. Yeah.
We did.
Yeah,
Irishman.
I think we both agreed on those. So
And
yeah,
Goodfellas.
Martin
Goodfellas,
Scorsese seems to be very divisive
Goodfellas.
among us, I guess.
right? I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
I'm not lowballing Neil.
Yeah. It's just because you're lowballing The Departed and The King of Comedy. You definitely are. You're like these.
Yeah,
these
that's why I
movies,
let you go
so
first.
good.
You know,
But you know, Neil picked.
because every time you would pick a
put
movie
them
at
in
like
S
A
tier, so
tier,
I'm
I'd
gonna
really
have to
put it in
disagree
C
at B
tier.
tier.
When you pick
Like, I'm
movies
fine
B
if you
tier, I'd
said
put it in
A
A
tier,
tier.
right? But like
That's how
B
I picked
tier,
all my movies.
there's so much. I honestly, like
Yeah.
by like what
What can you
by
do?
Raging Bull. I think that was having. If you put Raging Bull so high and I put it so low.
I think. Yeah, I think we were recording for like a really long time. So
I think
so actually,
that's all right.
some news for you listeners, loyal listeners out there. We're going on a break for the holiday season. We'll be back, I think, January the 9th. Don't quote me on that though. Um, hold on. Let me check my calendar. We'll be back on January the 10th. A day off. So we'll be back on January the 10th. We might have a little surprise coming out near the Christmas, just for a little extra episode. But for like from now until January 10th, we're gonna be going on a break for the holiday season. So I guess have a happy holidays, everyone. Um, I hope you enjoyed the first half of whatever this podcast is, not Film Critics Season 2. Um, and I don't know, Neil, any final words?
Merry Christmas, you filthy animals.
Ah, going for the Home Alone reference, very topical.
And a Happy New Year.
um, uh, that's the end of this episode. Make sure to subscribe and do it all the other engagement stuff. We hope you enjoyed, and I guess yeah, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, have fun, guys, go wild.